I have reached out to Richard. For those people who are on the call, I will try to make it as understandable as possible in case you cannot see the slide or you weren't able to log into the WebEx. This is also being recorded. The PowerPoint slides will be available online. I think depending on how fast the upload is, they should be online momentarily, all at our website. I'll get to that in a minute. I think we get started because I really want to be, cognizant of your time and only use probably 25 minutes to go through this. So you may have heard about the Alliance for Digital Pathology, which is a regulatory science community, an effort, and an initiative. I want to provide an update on several projects that are available through and or supported by the Alliance, and in particular instructions in case you want to get involved, how to get involved. So one brief word about collaboration here. So we're talking about regulatory science, meaning everything related to governance of safety and benefits to patients. There's a lot of different views on what that discipline is, but we have many, many contributors. It's a free community. It's in a pre-competitive space, and it's temporary because we want to accomplish certain things. And if you want to read a little bit more, you can go to our website, and I will show you the website in a second because there have been several changes. Obviously, every one of us can make a difference, and I want to show you what we have accomplished. Briefly, where we are here, if you see that there are tons of different, entities here, and I thank Amanda here for the beautiful slide animation. I just want to mention that we are one of those people who collaborate probably worldwide, and we really want to get more people involved, more stakeholders who align or affiliate themselves with our goals. So if you haven't seen it, digitalpathologyalliance.org is our website. You can join just by clicking on the top right. You can donate in case you want to, and there is a code of conduct, which I will explain in the next slide. All of our meeting materials, memos, contributions are freely available. For examples, 2 or 3 recent projects that I will outline are already on the website, which you can find under, some of these projects, and then just the pull-down menu. All of our meetings and memos are also cataloged by date and time. So please feel free to use this, and there's a lot of content on there already. As I'm sure you're all aware, this is a lot of work, and I think with the COVID pandemic, we are all hustling around, trying to do the best that we can and try to contribute. Sometimes the blood pressure is up, sometimes the pressure is on. We all have to be, cognizant of that. At the same time, we want to collaborate and we want to move the field forward as fast as we can. So we put this out to just make people aware that we want to be considerate and respectful, but at the same time, friendly, collaborative, patient, all the things that we always strive for, in particular in times when it gets really stressful, just like right now. So please take a look if you haven't seen it. If you have questions or comment on the code of conduct, this is the contact. You can reach out to me or anyone else in the Alliance. We try to have certain standards and we try to maintain them. So this is the prelude. I want to share some of the recent developments with you, and these have been gigantic efforts by many, many people. The team lead on this particular effort is Joe Siren-Trappin, joined by many, many others. I think you have heard, and I think this is currently happening throughout the world, that pathologists are being asked or have been pushing and now have accomplished in the US at least a temporary waiver to do remote sign-out. There are some of the regulatory steps outlined here, but what happens now is that we have to kind of implement what we've been looking for years, which is that we can do remote sign-out, either using remote technologies for still images, for digital images, or full-fledged whole slide imaging. I think this is a fantastic opportunity. It took a village, probably more like a town, to actually move this regulatory hurdle away, at least temporarily. But I think what we in the Alliance think is that this is the roadmap to accomplish something much more meaningful down the road, meaning we can test drive this right now and gain the experience that we couldn't gain otherwise because of, regulatory hurdles. We have put a lot of information already on the web, thanks to Joe and Richard. I want to share two elements or just point you in that direction. If you are interested in this, I know Joe gave a talk today, actually before this meeting. There will be more talks about how to accomplish this from a practical perspective now. Please reach out to Joe if you're interested in that. And the two documents that I want to point you to, if you haven't seen this, again, this will be available on the website, is this memorandum summary by CMS. And then more from a practical perspective, I want to give CAP credit for putting together a validation outline. Clearly, this will require local adoption, and we've started on that. And I wanted to point you for validation approaches to Richard Wang, who helps maintain our website. There's already a lot of content on there. So to just briefly go back under projects, you will find this temporary remote sign-out tab, and there's already a ton of information there. It points you also to the relevant guidance documents. So I think I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I presume that there are many questions about this. Maybe we have some time in the end. But I just wanted to point you to that because that's this was a goal before COVID, and it is now extremely helpful to have this. And if you have questions, again, Joe Sirentrappen and Richard Wang are the key point people for this. Now, you may have seen that we sent out, I think probably 3 or 4 days ago, an email about what is currently called the COVID-19 Worldwide Digital Repository. This is a more than bite-sized effort on trying to understand this terrible disease from a pathobiology perspective by acquiring digital copies of some of the tissues. There's many aspects that I cannot possibly summarize in a few minutes, but I wanted to point to 2 or 3 things because it's really important. I know we have several key stakeholders and domain experts from Europe on the phone as well. I think there are some from Japan, some from Southeast Asia. We have 2 contributors from Australia. I think it's by now 12 countries. The World Health Organization has already supported or guaranteed support. We have a lot of initiatives here. The 3 team leads on this are Marcus Herman, Matt Levitt, and Amanda Lowe. They have been in a phenomenal tag team, but we need more help. If you're asking yourself, well, what can I do? How does this work? So the first part is that we put together a questionnaire, and I'll show you that in a second, to really just capture at a very superficial level the equipment and the available technologies and certain settings. Now we know that in the first world versus third world, we're talking about completely different things. And probably even the tracking of cases is different. There's numerous questions about pre-analytical variability and how to do data sharing. And some of the things that this group has put together, I want to briefly outline. And again, you can definitely share this. So wherever the pathologists are, we try to align the data to ultimately understand what we're dealing with. Now, to enable this, it is really tricky to just say, oh yeah, we just share the data. That may sound as if that's the right way to do it, but we have already witnessed by, some of these efforts that yes, data can be shared. You can just freely wire those around, but there's definitely some issues with personal health information and the quality of data. So what the team has put together already is a data management and de-identification and data curation pipeline. Now, there's a lot of details about this, and I would kindly ask you to reach out via Marcus, Matt, and Amanda to this subgroup. Again, the contacts are here to really understand what we need to do to harmonize this and make the data acquisition as fast, safe, but also as of high quality and under appropriate licenses and or data sharing agreements. Now, that by itself is usually a multi-month project. So we're looking definitely for people who have the technical domain knowledge to realize some of this, not necessarily, the pathologists. We will get them on board as well, but we're looking in particular for people who could help with setting this up and aligning, let's say, local or distributed resources with these aims of the group. I mentioned the survey. In case you have your cell phone with you, you can just use this code here to get to it. It really is short. It takes about 2 minutes, and it captures, the group. So if you want to contribute, this is something that this group has also put together, and I'm really glad to see that much progress. There's a ton more that the group has done, but I wanted to highlight those points. Now, talking about COBIT, I want to mention a few things that Brandon has pointed me to. So from the FDA, as you probably have seen already, there's a lot of different pathways. Now, while this seems US-centric, I think the approach I want to share also with you, because we have kind of mirrored that in our institution. And in case you suffer currently from email overload, maybe you can consider that as well. But the FDA has put into place, depending on what inquiries you want to talk about, diagnostic inquiries, non-diagnostic, industry hotline, or something regarding other components, in this case manufacturing. So I wanted to point out, for those who want to interact or have to interact with the FDA, as these new mailboxes that may or may not be well known, but what we did locally, which I wanted to use as sort of a blueprint to share that with you, we get a lot of requests from industry, from collaborators, from other researchers, whether we can assess new technologies. And that can be almost more distracting than helpful. So we set up similar email inboxes to collect this and then do concerted efforts of saying when someone has an hour to go through those technologies instead of having 6 people email all these things around. I think you know where I'm going with this. I just wanted to share it in case you haven't done that. That's more or less a practical tip to keep your brain mass aligned and effective as possible. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I just used one of the very many things that the FDA has approved and will provide updates. I think it is almost imperative to check the website. There's things that go beyond regulatory governance in the US. For example, this is a message from today that a reference grade sequence data repository was FDA authorized, and you can see this. This is from Argus, from the University of Maryland. Fantastic data, fantastic resources. I just, again, point you into that direction. I want to stay briefly for 2 or 3 more slides with COVID-19, because there's so much activity, and from about 20 other projects, I want to select 2 or 3 that I think really personally, as well from a practical perspective, make most sense to feature. One is a call out, a big thank you to the entire team here in Boston. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., here is the Zoom link. So if you want to, take a photo, I apologize, or you can take it from the website. I think it will work as a link. This is going to be a very practical overview of how to validate a serologic test. It is currently a very uncharted territory. We don't understand the viral kinetics yet. There are a few papers coming out from several groups, mostly from Asia, where they had longer-term ideas, but we have already gotten some of our kinetic data together. You can see here when IgM and IgG as the key antibodies that mediate likely the immune positivity, when they show up and what that looks like. In this case, using one of the very many point-of-care tests, but leading to quantification, you see that this is completely contingent upon when you measure it. And I just want to, again, point to this in case you have time tomorrow, 2 p.m. I think serologic testing is probably, now that we have up and running and authorized tests for diagnosis in mostly nasopharyngeal swabs, I think this is the next territory that the field will have to tackle and challenge. I want to point you to that, and This webinar tomorrow will be handled by John Alfredi, and two of our phenomenal trainees who have put this together over the last couple of days. And I'm very proud to say that, and it's, I think, really practical. Now, apart from these local efforts, what is anticipated to happen is that some of these test situations may actually cause real trouble. And I want to point to a group in Seattle led by Monica De Baca. It's called the Ruleout Group. Now, when you talk to infectious disease specialists, it is actually not the difficulty to identify patients with COVID. It is the difficulty to really seriously rule out that it is COVID or something else. Now, this is a very, very unique approach, and I want to explain that. And they have a white paper on their website, which is ruleout.org, which is a decentralized testing proposal, assuming certain things, where you could, for example, work with a beehive model where a master beehive remotely accesses multiple decentralized test sites, for enabling multiple tests going on at the same time, but also to enable orthogonal testing, which is a big hurdle. So this rule-out laboratory developed test alignment with a regulatory framework, I think is very well aligned with what we're trying to do. And I wanted to point to one of the figures in their white paper, which is already going into the detail on how to set up lab tents for testing. I'm sure you've heard that, some of the efforts in New York in the Central Park are happening. So we definitely face likely a distributed test model, in particular, because I think data become clear that at least in Asia, the hospitals are also one of the culprits. So I definitely wanted to point to that. There's the contact with Monica. The email is available. And I think it's definitely a great outline, even if you disagree with certain components in there. For a task force, I don't know if you lead local efforts akin to what I just outlined. This is the go-to reference, at least to my knowledge, for now. If we go even one step larger, the World Health Organization has published many, many things. I'm sure you have seen some of the incident reports and the incidence and prevalence reports that they put out daily. I want to point out to one resource here that just came out. It's under the main priority of diseases, the novel coronavirus. That's the main landing page if you Google WHO coronavirus. There's one that's called the Coordinated Global Research Roadmap. This is derived just over, approximately here, February, a couple of weeks ago, in collaboration with the Global Research Collaboration for Infectious Disease Preparedness. They have a global threats team that worked extensively on this multi-page document that is very concisely outlining what needs to be done and how to organize efforts just like ours and how to align these with overarching aims. We try to follow this as closely as possible. We do have a direct link with Ian Cree to the World Health Organization, and we try to, again, try to be as effective as possible with aligning with this. However, as you can probably imagine, there's the rules and then there's reality, so we definitely have to bridge that. The next project I want to outline is led by the Friends of Cancer Research. The Friends is a patient advocacy group in DC. The CEO, Jeff Allen, is leading this evidence accelerator, which is a project where this advocacy group works closely with the FDA on two main goals. One is to get a set of core data elements together that would form almost like a COVID-19 blueprint to say that's what we need. And then you see those immediate questions that will result from that is what really needs to be captured. I'm a big fan of Friends. They have excellent guidance papers, white papers. They have phenomenal resources on their website. And I wanted to point to this because I think getting the data together is one element, how to do that, but what to get together, I'm sure is absolutely essential to get that done. With their infrastructure and experience navigating in DC as well as with the FDA, I think they're absolutely well positioned to lead this effort, and I wanted to share that with you again as a pointer. There are several other components I want to mention that are not necessarily directly related to COBIT, but to the overarching mission of the Alliance. And so there's a little bit of a gap between, what seems to be highly focused on COBIT and some of the things that I'm talking about now. Now, one of the elements that I want to bridge here is how will this work if we sign out remotely? And one element obviously is how to approach payers. Now, while that may seem a little strange in, times of crisis, there are very, very many rules about how this is governed. During our Alliance meeting that just happened a few weeks ago in LA, Esther and many other contributors have sort of kicked this off and provided an outline for a paper on how to do this. It is in various stages. I won't have the time to go through this, but please take a look. If you are interested in contributing to this or have practical questions on how to do this, please contact Esther, myself, or the people who are mentioned on the website. When it comes to the last 3 projects or the last 4 projects that I want to outline, I give especially credit to some of the people that provided these extremely well formulated guidance documents. One is a website. It's called AIDA, which is Analytic Imaging Diagnostics Arena, which is a very comprehensive set of, I would call it just a resource center for all kinds of GDPR-related questions, as well as what to do and how to do it for artificial intelligence and medical image analysis. The brain behind that is Joel Hedlund. He's a phenomenal person, and I just wanted to mention this as a resource. It is too comprehensive to get there, but in case you are interested in data sharing under GDPR or also outside, which is, again, what we outlined earlier with Marcus, I just wanted to mention this. The next project I want to mention is the a truthing project. This is a top-level summary provided to the Alliance by Brandon Gallis from the FDA. We had a actual data collection event in person at the pre-use cap meeting in LA. You can see some of those numbers, so I think it is actually quite an impressive number. It's definitely not enough for top-level statistics, but I think it is a wonderful start. I think we want to have more of that, and I want to point you to Brandon because I know there's a lot of online data truthing sessions happening, and you can contribute if you're a pathologist. There are certain rules. Please reach out to Brandon. There is also a Path Presenter, which is a platform, a virtual platform to share, subscribe, and control image data management. The person who organizes that is Raj Singh at Mount Sinai. There may be multiple ways how you can use this system, for example, to do online consultations, etc. I just wanted to mention that Path Presenter is one of the platforms that is up and running, and I just wanted to point that there are many others. I just picked Raj because he's put together a tremendous amount of resources to have this ready. So in case you want to contribute there or want to see what he's doing, please feel free to reach out. The last project I want to outline is the IC3R, which is in this case an international collaboration for classification research for tumors. However, in speaking with the team lead, Isia Indave, one element that we at least conceptualized was whether we could test this for COVID-19. Now the infrastructure is currently just being proposed. I think you can find her under the team lead link here. And in case you're interested in test driving this evidence-based infrastructure, I would definitely recommend looking here. These are obviously larger scale efforts that may take a little bit more enthusiasm on your side to get this accomplished. But as you can tell, this is a multi-dimensional thing where digital pathology plays a role, histopathology, molecular pathology, and all these things we basically have to establish now for COVID in no time. So over the next couple of weeks, we anticipate that there will be enough medical literature and publication evidence to test drive this as a scientific evidence streamlining way how to get this together in terms of what is COVID, what is that disease, what does it look like, and how can we possibly treat it and manage it. So with that, I want to say if you haven't done so, please consider becoming a member. You can just click on the website, and on top right, you can join. If you found this valuable, we will try to do this again in the very near future. And with that, I hope that we can use the last 4 to 5 minutes for some questions. I don't know, Sarah, if someone asked you some things in the chat. If you haven't, or if you just want to provide feedback, please do so. Yeah, and I open this up for questions now.
Jill, this is Jennifer. Has the first draft for the reimbursement paper been circulated yet? Because I know I signed up to be on that working group, but I haven't seen an actual draft go out yet. So just want to make sure I personally didn't miss it.
I don't think so. I think that was still in the pipeline. I don't know if Esther Abels is on the call. I think she's working on it, but I also haven't received a copy. So I think it is still being in the outline mode, probably a little bit delayed due to the COVID.
Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions? Was a lot of stuff, I understand, but I try to keep the message as dense as possible to make it as useful as possible. Again, I hope that this will go up on the website soon. I don't know if Richard is on the call or if someone can check, because while I'm in presenting mode, I can't. Other questions, comments, concerns?
Just one other comment that this is again Jennifer from the Philips team, to now put on my Philips hat and share. We will be sharing a public or a press release tomorrow, but Philips has been working with the FDA in response to specifically the US and the requirements with the specific monitor model. We have been given the exception under the current condition and circumstances to allow essentially any monitor that meets the minimum requirements that we discussed with the FDA to be allowed for remote use. And if anyone didn't know, the Philips system itself can be and has been already FDA approved for remote use from home. That was already part of the FDA approval. I think the limiting factor for some instances was the barcode monitor specifically, but the FDA has given us the okay to work with our customers and any potentially new customers who want to use a non-barcode monitor, assuming it meets the minimum requirements. So we're putting out some information officially tomorrow about that, including minimum requirements for setting up a remote home setup. So I'm hoping that would also help a lot of the pathology community in the United States in particular with making decisions for moving forward and setting up remote setup for those that really need it. I live in New York, and in New York it's a necessity right now.
That's very helpful. Thanks for pointing that out. I think the framework that I showed earlier, here the recommendations by CAP are also not really built for this, emergency situation. So I think what I believe we can do now, or we have to do, is find reasonable ways to make it as safe as possible. And with the enabling of remote sign-out, I think it's exactly those, let's say, real-world evidence data sets that we should consider capturing. So whoever is in these situations now, I know CAP is working actively on this, and I really want to give a lot of credit to CAP for having done this and contributed to a lot of these current exceptions, the waiver, the recommendations. but also for spearheading this. I presume that there will be many studies emerging from this, but this real-world evidence to me is probably the most important part, because we're actually being given the exceptional opportunity to test drive this now, because we should and we have to.
Couldn't agree with you more, and that's actually one of the things that, and again, highlighting Philips in particular, because our customers have asked, and we are already working with some customers trying to deploy them as quickly as possible or expand their operations to be able to support them in this current situation. But that was also the mindset that whoever we do this with, maybe doing some real-time case studies and data collection to share with the CMS, share with the FDA, share with the CAP, to show that there's a safe way of doing this, reassuring pathologists and hospital administrators that this is a safe way of doing their clinical work.
Yep. It's an interesting press release that we're definitely looking forward to, because it tackles one of the elements, meaning the modular nature of pathology that is currently, within a I don't know, digital pixel pathway or whatever you want to call it, confined setting, is different now. So it will definitely be interesting to see, for example, also to do bridging studies with other scanners, etc.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you see that in the chat. I'm seeing that there is a NCI imaging community call on Monday. Please make a note of that. I see that will be done by Raj and Matt Hanna. That sounds interesting. I don't know if you can all see the chat. All right. There are no more questions. I thank you for your attention. Hopefully we will get this up on the website soon. Then we send out one more email, and then please stay tuned for the next time that we can hopefully provide an update. If you found that useful, please drop me a line, or if you hated it, do so as well. I hope to improve over time, and thanks a lot for investing this half hour. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.